everyone. Welcome back to the Live to Inspire podcast. Yours truly again, Dave Coleman, with an interesting episode based around male mental health. I've had quite a few suggestions or comments, replies, messages, whatever, around this topic. I'm sure it will be multiple parts. I'm sure it's a big claim. I hope it reaches people and people feel more comfortable to embrace the mental health struggles if obviously people have them. So I'm sure, like I say, there'll be multiple parts to this episode. So to start with, really, I've experienced a few things myself. Quite a lot of prejudice in the past, which, given my nature, obviously the nature of the podcast, the title of it, title of my book, things I try and do in my life just to try and help people to have experienced first-hand prejudice from both male and female friends is tough. It's tough to deal with. Makes me quite sad. But unfortunately, people do prejudge. People will put you into a stereotype that fits their mindset, that's how they want to perceive things. And if someone's being nice, it's almost like there must be a catch. A good friend of mine said, good friend Jim Galvin of Atlas Fitness and Conditioning said to me on our bobsleigh jaunts, on our bobsleigh competitions, manners are so rarely used these days that when they're misconstrued as flirting. Sad but true, really. How often can you open a door these days for someone, male or female, and it can potentially be misinterpreted as some ulterior motive. So that's an interesting point for me, and it sort of stems everything that I would hopefully like to talk about. Scribbled a whole load of stuff down in my book, so apologies if it's a bit disjointed, but we'll try and get through it all. So a thought I had in the middle of the night, I just woke up at about 3 a.m, couldn't sleep, it was playing on my mind, so I did what I call a brain dump, woke up, wrote this down on my phone, and then I could sleep again. So the thought was, if you cannot empathise with someone about something or a situation, then maybe try experiencing it for yourself. Because I believe that can provide true understanding and awareness of a situation or emotions attached to it. Don't ask me where it came from. I just woke up at 3 a.m. and it just came to me. If you cannot empathise with someone about a situation, then maybe try experiencing it for yourself. That can provide a true understanding and awareness of a situation or emotion. So I thought that was quite poignant, really, because then that led me on to think about, I listened to a podcast several years ago with Johnny Wilkinson, and I believe he set up his own brand of juices or smoothies or something along those lines. And I think, don't quote me on this, it was called Number One. And he said the reason he called it that is because the difference between number one and no one is a full stop. And I think that's really, really clever. So in terms of a male mental health perspective, you can go from being number one. You can be at the top of your game in whatever profession, whatever career, whatever sport, whatever you are in, you can be number one. You can be number one in yourself because there's only one of you in the world. But as soon as you take that decimal point away, you've become no one. And that for me is a potential trigger or a potential cause for a lot of negative male mental health, such as depression, anxiety, so on and so forth. And I actually did some research around this where one of the biggest killers of men is suicide. It's a widely known fact, and I thought I'd just check out the sort of statistics. In 2020, there were just over 5,000 suicides registered in England, and over 75% of those were male. 75% of suicides were male, and the sort of typical age range is around 40 to 50 years of age. Obviously, to compare that in that age bracket, so from 40 to 49, it's around 25% for female suicide. So obviously neither of which are great, but it does beg the question, why is the rate of suicide, why is the level of people taking their lives, men taking their lives in that age bracket so high? I wish I could give you an answer. Again, I'm not qualified in anything. It's my own personal views, all that sort of stuff of, anything expressed is my own thoughts. I would fully advise people to go and seek counselling, seek advice, speak to a medical professional, and don't take anything I say as gospel. So interestingly, to move it on, I remember I watched a documentary of Eddie Hall, and he said he would categorically one day be world's strongest man, and he would have the world record for deadlift, because he believed that having the biggest deadlift, i.e. the person who is able to pick up the most amount of weight from their floor to the mid-thigh, is the strongest person in the world, and ultimately the most alpha, the alpha male. And yeah, that's what he did. Short of trying to, that was his purpose. He said he wanted to make his kids proud. He wanted to make his wife proud, his family, his parents, make people proud of him and what he'd achieved, and a legacy. After he's left this world, he has a legacy of, he was the first person to deadlift 500 kilos. He was the first, he was Britain's world's strongest man. I can't remember what year, I'm sure someone could tell me. But it's part of his legacy. And he said if he didn't do that, he would definitely die trying, because that's his purpose, that was his fulfillment. So that becomes this sort of innate need and desire as a male to protect family. And that obviously stems from the sort of Neolithic era, where, very primal, males would go out, hunt, kill, provide food, etc. There is, I think there's less of a stereotype or a stigma attached to breadwinners. I think there's a lot more equality being pushed through in the world now between males and females, in terms of breadwinners, etc., etc. But that is a factor in that some males respectfully are the main breadwinner, the main financial income for a household. And if, as I mentioned in episode 10 about relationships, if a male is not financially stable or not in a financially strong position to support himself, a wife, a partner, and offspring, it can provide a lot of stress, which then leads to anxiety and potentially depression, and things can exacerbate from there. So that's one factor that does. When I say exacerbate, I mean the links between the mental side of things and the physiological side. So I'm sure you're aware, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in September 2013, 6 months prior to Winter Olympic Games selections. And really, really interestingly, where I've been playing rugby recently, one of the guys from the team has reached out to me. Very, in fact, unbelievably similar circumstances. He had a trauma in his life, and then it affected him and he didn't realise, etc. I will get him on the show to talk about it, but he has gut problems, shall we say. It's not quite as severe as ulcerative colitis, but it is gut related. So the link between mental and physiological is really significant. So we can attribute gut health to mental health. So that is a potential factor. And again, for any males listening or anyone listening, if there is anything, shall we say, inconsistent in bowel movements, it may be worth taking a step back and reviewing your mental health. If there's factors that are out of your control, if you're suffering from a mental health condition, step back, because if you're not aware mentally, there's definitely a physiological response that you may be able to pick up on. So that would be my advice for that one. Excuse me. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but it might have come from my world, a sporting context. I was always told about self-talk, self-evaluation, where you have like not necessarily voices in your head, but almost a Jekyll and Hyde, the yin and yang, right? Where you've got a positive and a negative. And for me, the negative is the easy option. It's always there. It's the path of least resistance. And it can just be the easier option, right? However, when we embrace positivity, that can then perpetuate that cycle of positivity. I think I mentioned that before. So if we can quieten down the negative areas, the negative talk, the negative voices, and fully embrace and raise the volume of those positive mindsets, those positive voices, those channels of communication within oneself, that can hopefully then it's a strategy to try and squash the negative mental health issues and embrace the change, embrace the positivity. Something that really triggered with me when I had some counselling. I'm exposing myself, I feel very vulnerable saying this, but just what we've got to do to embrace the mental health. When I had some counselling, the counsellor said to me, who do you see yourself as? Now for me, I think right back to episode 1, who am I, who I am. Can't remember which one it was called. But you know, I've done things in my life, professionally, sporting, you name it. It's in that episode. Please go listen to it if you're not sure. I won't bore you with it. But some people would see that as successful. Someone once called me hyper successful. And to me, I don't really see that. I don't really understand that. And it really, really confused me when the counsellor asked me that question. Because how you see yourself versus how others see you, it can be completely different. So if it is different, that can also potentially be a cause of mental health, a negative mental health, because are you putting on a face, are you putting on an act every day to almost fulfill the stereotype, the prejudgments that people have about you based on what they know of you, rather than you being who you think you are, who you want to be on a daily basis. Because then, otherwise, you wake up as one person, you go to work and you do your job as the other person that people know you as or see you as, and then you come home and then you become yourself again. So that can be really challenging mentally to almost switch it on, switch off. Like where do you sit on that spectrum? So again, something potentially to think about. And going back to the success or hyper successful, I remember someone said, what does success look like to you? Now, it's totally subjective. Obviously, there's no right, there's no wrong answers. And it's what you want it to be. I watched a documentary the other day about minimalism. This guy had, I don't know, pair of pants, shorts, t-shirt, laptop, and that was it. He had nowhere to live, and he just carried everything in 2 bags. His whole life was in 2 bags. He said, how much stuff do you really need? Someone else did 33 for 3, which was 33 items of clothing that included socks, jewellery, you name it, just for 3 months, and it became this trend on social media. So what does success look like to you? Is it minimalist, living your life in a almost carefree way? How many items do we need? How much, do we need a fast car? Do we need bags? Do we need a big house? Or are you successful in that you're happy in yourself? Stephen Bartlett, I heard a thing about him on TikTok, and he was broke. He had nothing of nothing, and he was beg, borrowing and stealing. And he said he went into a chicken shop, fished his hand down the back of the chair and found £1. And he thought, these haven't been cleaned out for ages. So he went around and he said he found something like 13 quid. And as he's walked, he had this £13 of nothing for him was huge. And he said, don't blow it all at once, And he went to McDonald's and blew it all. But he said the flip side of that is, now that his company or companies are worth X tens, hundreds of millions, it doesn't get that. The buzz of finding £13 far exceeds any other value that he's ever had. So that makes me think about, I call it, or it might be known as, the law of zero. So someone explained this to me as, if you have nothing, like Stephen, £0 or zero finances, and then you find 50p of nothing is a lot. Whereas if you have £1,000 and then find 50p, it's where's your zero? The zero's moved up to 1,000, so 50p almost has no value to you. So it's something to think about, in that, where is your zero? Are you constantly moving your zero? Is your scale constantly moving up? I know for me, mine always does, which is potentially a problem, or potentially a cause for my mental health, in that if you're constantly raising the law of zero, what do you then need in order to achieve a level of satisfaction? What do you need in order to feel a level of success? Someone said, how much money would you need in order to feel, or in order to be able to be free from cares and work? And this research stated that there was effectively, most people would have a 3 times their current financial situation, financial salary, in order to be free. And that doesn't matter if you're £10,000 a year, £100,000 a year, or £100 million a year. If it's 3 times it, that's the sort of general kind of research. So I'll let you ponder that one for yourselves. It's an interesting one. Where are we? Oh yeah, okay, so moving into the last little bit. In episode 7, I discussed resilience, and almost combining that with episode 9 about mindset. As part of my law of zero, I always look to challenge myself physically and mentally. Some people struggle to do that. I struggle to switch off from it. As one of my friends said the other day, you know who you are. But resilience, in that, an absolute defiance and refusal to give up. I have contemplated suicide. I had a significant trauma in my life. When was it? About 3 years ago now. Whole rigmarole of things all happened at the same time, and I just thought, what's the point? But my resilience, my mental resilience, in an absolute defiance to give up, in that if I did give up or action any of my thoughts, in my mind, the other party will have won. And I'm just a bit stubborn, and I refuse to let them win, because I know I've done nothing wrong. I know I'm true to myself. I know what happened. I know what's going on. I know where I am, and how things are going. So I just refuse to let people win. Obviously, in that situation, in a sporting environment, it's a little bit different, because if someone else wins and you don't legitimately, then you've lost. But it's, the theatre of conflict. So that's the sort of level of resilience as a potential coping strategy, I guess, and also mindset. So the team I work with for these weightlifting endurance world record attempts, I think that's fair to say, it's called Lifting the Stress for Mental Health. Now we raise money for Royal Marines, different charities. There was one called Fort Lewis, there's one called the Woodland Trust, just helping ex and current servicemen and women, raising money to help them back into onto the right path, really, and to help them cope with any sort of post-traumatic stress, any mental health conditions, whatever it is. And selfishly, I guess, it's for me as well, in that it's something I can focus my mind on, in that it's helping me to have a goal to work towards, but also it's a good thing to do, because it's something no one else in the history of this planet has ever achieved. Obviously, if we're successful, and any money that we raise will go to a good cause and help other people with their mental health. So mindset is really key, and I think personally a challenge to keep you focused on something moving forward. One of the books I'm reading at the moment said it's good to have problems, but a problem will only ever be replaced with another problem. So you may not necessarily find a solution to said problem, but you can bet your pound to a penny another problem will come along, and the original one will just shift down, the other one will go in the top, and it will keep going. So if you can embrace the problems, a level of acceptance, which I think I spoke about in maybe episode 8 or episode 5, I can't remember, I think you're well on the right path to overcoming mental health, or negative mental health. So that's something to think about. And lastly, there was an analogy came from Home Alone. I watched that the other day. Don't ask me why. It's just on. Kevin had a brand new set of roller skates one year for Christmas. He'd been asking for them for years and years and years, and he eventually got these roller skates. It was amazing. And he was so over the moon about it. He never wore them because he wanted to keep them pristine, keep them clean, keep them in the box, really, really nice. And then by the time he did go to wear them, they didn't fit. So to develop that analogy, I don't know if anyone else gets it. When you buy a new pair of shoes, you put them on and it's great. They're all clean, they're all shiny, it's fantastic. But they don't quite fit right. They might be the right size, but the fit, they haven't really molded to your feet. So if we take that shoe as a problem, you put your foot into that shoe, it's going to take you a little bit of time till you get comfortable with the environment, get comfortable with the problem, and then you become more aware of it, you accept it. Does it then bother you quite so much? Have you now got a favourite pair of trainers, a favourite pair of shoes that actually they fit quite well? So the problem has now sort of moulded and you've fitted in with it, and the problem's around you. And it's just an interesting analogy, I think. So again, something to think about. So lastly, just 2 points. Remember where you once were, because it does not define where you are now. And as a closing thought, we will get there. We will get there. Not you, not I, we. We will get there. If not immediately, eventually. Okay, so stay strong. Be true to yourself. Embrace the problems. We will get there. If not immediately, eventually. Thank you for listening. I hope you're well. Please do reach out and stay safe.